everyone. Hope there's someone there. I'm trying to look at least double chin as I can. Well, we've got a very exciting guest for you today. Damon Rochefort. He's got a very interesting life. He was in the music business. Oh, Tracy's there. Good. And now he writes Coronation Street. Oh, hi, Hizuru from Japan. I told Damon we had Japanese watchers. That's nice. Oh, hi, Jennifer. Who's there? I'd love to see who's on. Anyone else I can say hello to? Anyone else there? No? Oh, hi, Karen. I knew you'd be there. Hi. Sorry I'm holding you back from the garden. Oh, hi, Perry, not from Thailand. Hi, Brian. Hi, David Daniel Wilkie. Hi, David Cabaret. Hi, Debbie. Hi. Oh, Sharon. Hello. Hi, Kerry Joyce Stewart. Paul, hi. Lauren. Oh, Damon's daughter. Richard Bratton. Hello. Oh, hi, Gina. See, it's thanks to Gina Fountain that all this started, really, because this was a marvellous idea to start the art classes at the Fountain Pub. Hi, Trindy. I know you're a big Coronation Street fan, so you're gonna. Oh, hi, Stella from Greece. Donata, hello. Right, before we start, we thought we'd go a bit more modern. Oh, hi, Daniel. I think you're sitting at home with the model. Or have I got that wrong? Right. Hi, Carl Smith. So what we're going to do is show a video of Damon's big hit song, which I'm sure you will all know. And I hope you notice that we've gone very high tech now. Got videos in. So here you go. Play that tune, Katie.
I want to give you a place to release your feelings. A star deep rhythm with a silent feeling. A word animation with a lot of emotion. With total dedication and a lot of devotion. Well, let's start here at the beginning of my lyric. To beat, to back, to rhyme is not a lyric. To rock, to roll, to soul is what I aim for. Wait till I hit the goal, and that's the top score. Some takes a long, others with it easy. To write my rhyme and line, I'm just a cool breeze. Keeping on and on. To get the justice, and the job's really done. Dedication and a lot of devotion. For magical moments, moments on musical, starkle, mystical, logical, lyrical, magical moments are meant to be kept. Don't erase on your brain, I need to eject. I didn't scream, but there's a nightmare inside. It's getting me outside, what's inside? It's a fight, good night, creep scene. Creeping, slowly, gas is frightening through because of that nightmare. The terrorize, hold that steam, and not wet the rise. Open your eyes and realize I'm a true disguise. Like with the Slayer, he came and caught it. Now he came, but now she's slaughtered. So don't use, abuse, or lose your right flow. Rock the mic to the disc, you don't get a set rhyme in time for the finest quality. That's the time when you know you're MC. M-I-K-double-E. Take it down now, Mikey. M-I-K-double-E. We're gonna take it down and take it down and take it down, Mikey. Take it down and take it down and take it down, Mikey. Take it down and take it down and take it down, Mikey. Take it down and take it down, Mikey. M-I-K-double-E.
Marvellous. Now let me introduce you to the gentleman himself, Damon Rochefort.
Hello. Hi, Sue. Hello, how are you, my love? Because that was a blast from the past, wasn't it, looking at that?
I know. I remember seeing you sing it live. I think it was your 50th birthday.
A long time ago. And we ended up actually supporting Kylie in 1991, which was hilarious. You know, me and Sharon had gone from doing these tiny little clubs for 50 quid a time. I mean, you remember those days, Sue, when you would literally get 50 quid for turning up. And then when it was a hit, it was so exciting. We ended up all over the world and supporting Kylie on her tour and doing all over the world, the States, Australia, India, Philippines, Thailand, everywhere. It was sort of like it was like a gap year, but we got paid for it, so it was better.
Brilliant. See, I could warn everyone, this is going to be very easy for me because Damon likes a chat.
I do like.
I won't have to encourage him. He just chats.
I'm going to try really hard not to move about too much either. So
everyone does, but if you can, because that's I love the colours in where you are. It's lovely.
Great.
So don't worry. But what people can do is take a screenshot. So then you can move a bit.
That's of course. That's clever, isn't it? Yeah.
To be honest, it's challenging for people if you're moving about. Because what I say to people is that you can just draw one long picture or lots of little pictures, whatever you fancy. Oh, hello, Emma. That's my sister-in-law. My little nephew's watching.
Hi, Emma.
Oh, he's only 8, but he does lovely pictures.
Oh.
You'll see them. Well, you'll be thrilled at the end with the pictures.
So, I can see all the names coming up.
Right, let's start where it began, Damon. Where were you grew up?
I grew up in a tiny village not that tiny, but a place called Dinas Powys between Barry and Cardiff. Barry's obviously Gavin and Stacey's film, so that was part of my childhood. But it's very seasidey, very idyllic. My mum and dad were like most working class parents in those days. Just everything was about the kids. Everything was about the fact, making sure we did better than them. So we got sent to a Welsh language school called Llanhari. I did. My sister.
Speaking Welsh.
Llanhari. Well, I didn't have any choice. It was a Welsh language school, so I was doing French in Welsh. I was doing German in Welsh, even though I didn't speak Welsh at home at all. That was challenging, but of course you got used to it, and it was a very clever way of making people bilingual without really teaching them Welsh. You just we went to the Welsh nursery school, and eventually you ended up speaking fluent Welsh. But it was. I do remember, whether it was because I was gay or whether it was because I felt I wasn't what they call a first language speaker, we weren't allowed to do any art in any music and stuff like that in school that had any English lyrics. So I was a DJ, and I was, because I wanted to be a DJ.
Oh, I'd like to hear the Welsh DJ.
Well, no, I had to actually, I could only play the instrumental B-sides of various disco hits. It was so ridiculous. So it would be Boogie Wonderland with Just the Emotions and not Philip Bailey singing. So it was a strange, but I'd say, looking back, quite idyllic. Lots of playing about in the woods behind the house. There was no money. We never went abroad. We never went to restaurants, but we were just running about our whole childhood.
The childhood was just playing in the street. And up the
woods. Really, well, our playground was the streets. We had, in fact, I remember our back lane had it went at the school that I eventually changed to go to, because I was so sick of this Welsh school by the time I was 16. I told my mother and father I was going to the local comp, and my mother, "You're not going to that bloody school up there. It's full of ruffians. They painted wanker on the back of our fence, those kids." The first time I heard my mother swear, she said, "They painted wanker on the back of our fence." So I, like a little precocious 16-year-old, I marched down to South Glamorgan County Council Education Department, made my own appointment, went to see them, and they agreed, because it wasn't compulsory to stay in school then after 16. My mum and dad didn't have any, I hope they were quite sort of proud of my independence. My best friend Justin, who died unfortunately about 10 years ago, longer than that I think now, his dad was quite a famous actor called Ray Smith, and he was a great Welsh nationalist, and he didn't want to be left in the Welsh school without me, but he knew his father would go ballistic, so he did the same as I did, went to see the council to change schools, but he never told his mother and father that he had changed schools, because he was too scared to tell his dad that he was going to English school. So I kept the English uniform in my house. So we'd walk up to my house every morning, change into the English, up we go to the new English school, and then he changed back after school had finished. And in fact, at his funeral, I actually revealed to her, his father had died before that, but his mother was still alive. And that was one of the revelations at the funeral. I said to his mum, he didn't actually go, he didn't go to the same school he think he went to. Yeah, well, it's just, we were very precocious kids, really. And I think he ended up in a heavy metal band called Tiger Tails, and I ended up doing what I did in Nomad. So
yeah,
we must have had a great deal of kind of innocent hope and belief that we could kind of do. You know, when you see people say now, "Oh, you can do whatever you want," you think, "Well, it's not true." It's not a bad place to start from when you're a kid to think that's true, but we all know that's not true. We can't all be Adele, and we can't all be Naomi Campbell, and you know, but you can do your darndest. And back then, there was certainly. Yeah, I think it was a very. I went. The reason I ended up in London is because I was so desperate to get out of this very, what I felt was a very small town. It's the same as gay people the world over. You know, you can't grow up in bumfuck Ohio. You've got to go to New York or Miami or LA, or if you're Germany, Berlin or Sydney, or you know, you're always going to gravitate to the big cities because that's the only place where you're going to, well, get a fuck and actually be able to live your life. But I think. So at 18, it was all about getting to university, and I managed to get my A-levels, and I went to Queen Mary on the East. I did a law degree. I started to
Queen Mary in like Mile End.
Yeah, exactly there. So yeah. So I didn't last long because as soon as funny enough, I was so desperate to be involved in the black music business, and nobody I knew liked the same music I did. They all liked heavy metal and rock music, and I was spinning around to Donna Summer and Earth, Wind and Fire and Diana Ross. And I was the only one. And fair play to my friends. Nobody took the piss out of me for it. You know, looking back, that was another kind of thing. I wasn't out. I didn't really even know what a gay person was. We were very naive. But nobody took the piss. I think they were quite impressed that I was so passionate. I knew everything about Motown. I knew everything about disco music. I mean, like a real nerd, you know. And so just before I left to go to university, the night before, my mum and dad, the whole family were going to bring me down. My brothers, my sisters, everything. Yeah, so we were all packed the bloody Cortina with all my crap and everything else, and off we went down to London. But the night before, we had a sort of farewell to me in the pub, and I'd written, again, very precociously at 18, this article from, used to get this magazine called Blues and Soul. It was reserved for me at the local newsagents. I was the only person, I guarantee, reading this magazine. And I'd written, after my A-levels, I'd written a letter to Blues and Soul. Diana Ross had changed record companies from Motown to EMI. She made a really rotten album, actually, a rotten pop album. And I was so disappointed because the previous two were the Upside Down album that Chic did, and before that, No One Gets the Boss album, which is by far my favourite album she ever did. And Dan and I got married to the Boss. It's it's absolutely our big song. So I wrote this letter to Blues and Soul, and it was all about that she'd left Berry Gordy and Motown, and it wasn't doing any good because this horrible pop album. Anyway, the night before, when we were all in this pub, the Malt House in Dinas Powys, I got my Blues and Soul as normal, and I opened it up, and there was a page. They'd run this letter as a page article, not as a letter. It was like a reader writes. I was 17 or whatever, and someone had drawn a lovely picture of Diana Ross, and it printed my entire. They hadn't even told me they were going to do this. And so I was so thrilled that Monday, so that my mum and dad took me down on the Sunday. On the Monday, I went straight to the offices in Praed Street. I think it's still there, Blues and Soul.
Guess what, Damon? I've got a special message for you. I don't know if you remember this person, John Carver. He lives near here at Rye, and he's told me to ask you specially all about Blues and Soul magazine in Paddington with Bob Kilburn.
Yeah, well, Bob was the editor. That's interesting because so I marched into Praed Street and I met Bob, who's the editor at the time, and he was very, as happened a lot in that when I was a real weenie, teenager, new to London. I was seen as a kind of, I think, looking back, as a kind of a bit of a novelty, this old Welsh kid who seemed to know everything about soul music, and so he sort of started to let me. Give me albums to review, which I was thrilled by because that saved me £4 buying the new George Benson album. So I used to get all these free albums. Then he started to let me do interviews, and I was still only 18, and I was meeting people like Donna Summer and Diana Ross. I interviewed Stevie Wonder. I interviewed George Benson. I got sent to Motown to do their 25th anniversary from Detroit. I was still a kid. I remember being in the Motown studios at 19 or whatever with a tiny little tape recorder, and Martha and the Vandellas and Smokey Robinson and some Temptations and Pips and Tops, who were all there, all got round the piano to record for me. They did Money. The best things in life are free, but you can give them to...
Oh, that's one of my favourite songs.
Yeah, which Berry Gordy wrote and the Beatles covered, one of the rare songs the Beatles covered. And it was so amazing for me as a 19-year-old to have all my heroes from my childhood. I thought, well, this is easy. You know, I got into the music business that quickly, really, the day I arrived in London, pretty much.
Yeah, but you just said dreams can't come true. Your dreams have come very true. You can be what you want to be. You just disprove what you said. Oh,
yeah. What I mean, you can say,
Damon, can you sit a little back or something so they can see more of you? That's enough.
Sorry.
Is the very weird around Damon's house, so he hasn't got much, so he can't move around too much. There's only a little corner where it works.
We call this our sunset terrace. It's basically a window outside one of our spare bedrooms, and because we've been in lockdown like everybody else for such a long time, we realised that this room, when the terrace stopped getting the sun about 5:36, that this one picture window here gets the sun fully right till it goes down. So we put a little table here, 2 stools. So this, and everybody sits here around the stairs when they come round. It's lovely. I mean, we could always go and sit on the doorstep, couldn't we?
Are you having people round?
Well, yeah, we are. We're in a very sensible way. Andy Oliver, who's one of my very best friends, as you know, she recorded a Saturday Kitchen last week. And luckily, her studio, where they do it, is down in Clapham. So usually what I do, go meet her at the end of the recording, have whatever leftover, food, and then we come back here. But she did come round for an isolated coffee a couple of Saturdays ago, just after she couldn't come to Clapham and not come and see us. Come on.
No, of course not. I know. I love sitting in my garden, seeing everyone walk past for a chit chat.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we got a terrace here, so I mean, we can see. It's lovely to be up a little bit, and we see what's beautiful here for us. We're in Battersea, is that all the street. There's no traffic. I don't know what it's like everywhere else, but there's literally no traffic. You're almost pointing at cars when they go past because it's such a novelty. But all the mums and dads, they're all quite posh, really, but they're all sat having a beer on the curb. There's dogs running about. There's dads on skateboards. There's kids on scooters. It's kind of charming, really.
I love
Say
it.
again? Yeah, I do. It feels like people are actually living where they live. They're not going out for work at 7:30, coming back 7:30, having tea and going to bed, falling asleep on the sofa. People are living where they live. And I haven't been anywhere. First time I used an Uber yesterday to go to a friend's barbecue. And I think before that, I've not been anywhere that I haven't walked. And it's been absolutely glorious.
I know, I love it. Yeah, I went in the cab for the first time last week.
Did you have a mask on?
Pardon?
Did you have to put a mask on? I had to put a black mask on.
I don't really get on with masks. I know it's terrible.
Yeah.
But generally, I'm in the open air, so I think I'll be all right.
Yeah.
I put a scarf on. I felt a bit claustrophobic.
Yeah.
But I'm not going on public transport, so I don't
know.
No. Right. Let's see where we are. You're at university.
Yeah. But actually, what I'm doing is spending all this time interviewing soul artists who are here touring or visiting. So I didn't like. In fact, at the end of my law degree, the first year, I hadn't been to a single lecture, and I was called in. I hadn't given a single piece of work, and they called me in, and I told them that my mother and father were getting divorced, and I was in a very, a terrible emotional state.
Really?
My mother and father, when they got divorced, they couldn't afford to. But I just thought I had to find some excuse. So I think they let me switch to history. Many years later, I even foolishly, because I was so naive, I took a job as a features editor on a magazine called The Street Scene, and I was paying national insurance and tax and the rest of it. At the same time, I was getting a grant from South Glamorgan County Council, and it all caught up with me at the end, and I had to pay, quite rightly, the council back all the money that I'd had as a grant. But it was before there were university tuition fees. For a lot of people like me, it was the only way you were ever going to get out of Wales, and the only or wherever you're from, to get to the big city. I mean, I can't imagine how anybody would do it now if you weren't going, if you didn't have a student loan. I mean, and that's a bit of a nightmare all in itself. But how else do you afford to get to London if you? And also, we all used to depend on bar work, right? I mean, wherever you were, you get a job in a pub to tide you over. Kids can't even do that now with lockdown. So those kids who are looking to do something over the summer, like we would do in the summer, you'd go and work in a pub, wouldn't you? And you would earn a few.
I had those lovely jobs. I had.
Yeah, I love working in pubs. I could do that now if I had to. I really enjoy pub work more than anything else.
So I would like, at this point, were you gay or what were you?
No, well, no, I must have been, but I didn't really realise. And then I met a wonderful woman called Helen. We went. In fact, I met her the very first night at the bar on the Sunday. And you know Helen, of course. And then within I think a year, we found out we were pregnant, and my mother, I mean, she couldn't believe. For her, you know, it was almost like I ruined all her plans. She wanted me to be a lawyer. She wanted me to be successful. Even now, well, I say now, she'd been dead 20 years. Even many years later, when I was on Top of the Pops, or I had my own chat show on BBC Wales, or I was writing Birds of a Feather, and I'd always say to her, "See, Mum, it's worked out for me." But she'd always look at me and say, "If you'd have stuck with law, you'd be a judge by now." I could be number one in the charts. I could be doing, writing these big TV shows. For her, if you'd stuck with law, you'd be a judge by now.
But was she thrilled that you had a daughter in the end?
She was in the end. I think at the beginning she was very worried that I was.
The neighbours might say.
It was a bit of that because it was those days, but mostly I think she thought I'd screwed things up for myself. Even when I came out to as gay, she said the classic line, "You're not gay, you're showing off," and that was. And that was her take on my coming out. So I was very different, though. I've got a great affection, and I tend to write best for women of that generation. I love that post-war rationing 50s women of that generation who never really complained. My mother used to say, it was a line I used in Corrie many years later. My mother would say, "Oh, for God's sake, in my day, something bad happened. She stayed home, got drunk, and bit on a shoe." And that was my mother's attitude, which I love that attitude, full stop, of rather than the constant I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but the constant self-questioning of people now, which I do myself, the constant feeling of, well, I don't have this, which I'm too old of that generation now. We all are a little bit. But, that kind of pull your socks up, get on with it, stop complaining, shut up, that kind of thing.
That's done me well in life, the stoicism of my parents.
Yeah, it's an very admirable quality, I think. It's,
don't complain about it, just get on with it. I go,
yeah. Right. It's I like that very much, and particularly that generation where they didn't have much, But I didn't see a banana till I was 19, but when I did, I went mad.
So, I mean, but I love the fact you're still really good friends with Helen, your daughter's mother, aren't you? And then when you're at parties, all your family come up from Wales, don't they?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, my sister, I've got two brothers and a sister. Yeah, we're all very, we're all still very much in each other's lives, and it's wonderful. We lost mum about 20 years ago, dad about 12 years ago, so that's a bit of a shame. But I got my husband's parents now and his family.
I know, you're so friendly, aren't you, all the family?
Yeah, they were down this weekend too. Yes, that's another thing you get no choice in is your choice of parents and siblings. I mean, it's foisted on you whether you like it or not, rich or poor, kind or brutal. It's just a real lottery. There's nothing you could do about it other than grin and bear it. If it's hard, and try and appreciate if it's good. But as a kid, you have no sense of either of those things. It's just what you're given.
I'm so lucky in life, really, that my family are nice.
Yeah, we say
caused me any trouble, or like so many people suffer the way their parents have treated them when they were young,
and you get no choice. There's nothing you can do about it, really. Until you're old enough to leave, I guess. And like you, I've got many friends who've had terrible childhoods, and so I count myself lucky all the time.
Yeah. Oh, Despo's got a bad wrist. She would try.
What about your wrist, Despo?
I know. She's one of my regulars. She's been at my art class since the beginning. She's a local lady.
Well, you've got to bring me down to Hastings because you've got my friend Alison Owen and Tom Bartlett down there, who I absolutely adore, both of them. So it sounds like it's a right little all-stars down there. It sounds
people say down here, it's not. The people usually say it's a fishing town with a drinking problem. Here, it's a drinking town with a fishing problem. Everyone here loves a drink. You can't believe it.
Well, we suit right in.
early, and there's always festivals with loads of drink involved. It's hilarious.
And also, what's nice? God.
No, you carry on.
I was saying, what's nicer than having a drink on the beach, eh?
I know, it's lovely. This is
We
lovely.
went to Bright Pride last year for the first time in a while. And it was absolutely boiling. I think it's in August, isn't it? And I'd given up spliff and that for a couple of years, and somebody gave me some, and within moments I had stripped off and jumped in the sea, at 2:00 in the afternoon, and I just thought, what a beautiful experience. You can actually walk from your high street into the sea.
I know.
And it's sort of where I was brought up, Penarth and Barry, that had that sort of thing, that you took the seaside so much for granted. But of course, these days, I see the sea, I want to go straight in as soon as I see it.
I know.
So I'll
carry on with your life story. So you're university, you're writing for Blues and whatever magazine.
Yeah.
So then how did you start your band?
So I got involved in... I was meeting a lot of producers. Then Blues and Soul very sweetly gave me Pete Tong, the DJ, was doing he was a journalist too on the magazine. He was doing a gossip column called The Nose, I think, but he wanted to leave because for some reason, and they offered me the gossip column. Again, I was still only about 18 or 19, and I didn't know anybody personally, but I knew a lot about them just through reading, I guess. And so, but Bob was quite sneaky, really, because he knew that, because I wasn't really involved in the industry, and I was quite articulate and funny, that he knew that I'd be quite outrageous, and he really encouraged me to be outrageous, and I made a lot of sort of enemies on that, but he would encourage me all the time to be more outrageous. It's a very closed shop as well, that industry, as most industries like that are to begin with, and so I made even more friends, because all these producers and they all wanted, and promoters wanted me to mention something in the gossip column. So then I met a guy called Ian Levine, who was a very famous DJ at Heaven. I interviewed him, and he sort of took me under his wing, and he got me a gig at Heaven. I did it Tuesday nights. Again, I was probably 19, and that was a great thrill. I did like a soul night at Heaven, and then
DJing.
Say again.
DJing,
yeah. No, dance.
Wash records, though.
Yeah, well, but that was a thrill. And then I met Sharon. I met a singer called Juliet Roberts, who later had a hit with Caught in the Middle. She was in a band called Working Week, and I interviewed her, and I said, I want to make a record. I've got an idea of record I'd like to make. She couldn't. She was signed to Bluebird Records, but she said, I met this girl called Sharon D. Clark, who was at the same age as me, 18 or 19. She got the most incredible voice. I think she was playing the Plant in Little Shop of Horrors at the time at London Bubble. I can't remember, but something like that. And we met, and we instantly kind of really fell in love, and in that platonic way. And she still to this day calls me her brother, and I call her my sister, because we're far too close to be best friends. And from that moment on, really, we made quite a few records, and each one did sort of marginally better than the previous one. None of them bothered the chart compilers. Some of them, I think one went to like number 74, and I was so thrilled. I remember Tony Blackburn loved one. In fact, I'll tell this very quick story. The first ever record I ever made, I was DJing also at a place called L'Equipe Anglaise in Duke Street, which is on. Did you know the place? And it was a very, very posh place. I met Roger Moore there. I met Grace Jones. They all used to come. It was only tiny, very fancy. Yeah. And at the time, this Sharifi who owned it, who I adored, who was Iranian by birth, but had come here when the Ayatollah took over, I think, like so many did in the 70s. And he was desperate to get in the music business. I sort of introduced him I said, well, I know this producer called Ian Levine, and then a singer called Sharon. So anyway, I managed, God knows how, at 18 to ask him to finance this record called Dance Your Way Out of the Door. I had this idea for a song called Dance Your Way Out of the Door. So I managed to get him to finance it for £5,000. So I'm still 18, 19 quid.
Well,
how the hell I managed that, I don't know. We made the record in Lily Yard, Hans Zimmer studio. Hans played on it. He was a good pal at the time. He's obviously a hugely successful movie composer now. So I had this record. I went to Meadem to sell it. We couldn't sell it. We went to the New York Music Seminar, which was in July in those days. couldn't sell it. Ian managed to say, well, I think I can get it as a B-side for this other artist. But I was thinking, fucking hell, this Sharifi say, where's my $5,000? And when are we going to have a hit record? Because to him, it was, I give you $5,000, you give me a hit record, and I make lots of money. But this wasn't happening. So somehow I had been in a bit of a feud with Tony Blackburn through this gossip column where I'd joked that we'd been to the London Soul Night Out and that James Brown had slapped him on the back so hard his wig had fallen over his eyes a couple of inches, and he was furious and tried to sue me for saying he had a wig. But lo and behold, I was with Steve Walsh. You remember Steve Walsh back in the day, the DJ? Real big guy, looked a bit like Henry VIII, but like big soul DJ. He sort of brokered this peace between us. And then before even that happened, I think, this import came in. Sharon D. Clark danced her out the door. We managed to get a deal for about $500. So my financial backer wasn't very happy. But then he started playing it. He obviously hadn't seen my name on it because he wouldn't have played it if he'd seen my name, say, produced by Dave Ross. But he fell in love with this record, Dance You Out the Door. And he played it every single day on his soul music, on his breakfast show. And it got enough interest that Arista said, oh, we might like to license it. So I went in for a meeting and they licensed it for £5,000. And I gave it straight back to Sharifi and went, phew, Jesus Christ. So somehow it worked out exactly. The universe was looking after me somehow. And then from then on, I suppose that gave me enough encouragement to know how to do it myself. And eventually I made, like anybody, every hit, there's 10, 20 flops before that. And there were, for me too, we had a big hit actually. Our first sniff was on there was a record called Going Back to My Roots, which is an instrumental, and I happen to know the record company, Rumour Records. Anne Plaxton was a great friend of mine, and she said we need a vocal on this to get it on top of the pops and to get it on radio. What about Sharon? So Sharon and I went to Milan again. I could only been about 20. We literally recorded I don't think they even gave us.
Given up university at this point, or were you still sort of
I was
pretending?
still in theory at university, but meanwhile I was flying all over the place trying to be a record producer. And we put this vocal on, and that really was a help for us then because it was top 10. Even though it wasn't really anything to do with me, particularly apart from putting Sharon's vocal on there, it meant we could go out touring. So I was Sharon's tour manager, and while we were out touring that, she'd do an a cappella of Fever, she'd do Dance You Out the Door, she'd do a couple of flops we'd had, but we could put together a 20-minute show and you get your 50 quid, 100 quid, and that was fine. But while I was tour managing her effectively, driving around and helping, I heard a lot of those songs like I've Got the Power and Everybody Dance Now. And I thought, we need a British one like that. So I came up with this idea of I Want to Give You Devotion. Yeah. I recorded it quite quickly. And the interesting thing about that story is it wasn't really a hit, but a lot of those big DJs loved it. So Tongi was a big supporter, Paul Oakenfold, Paul Trouble Anderson, I remember. They'd all play it. And the record company said to me, it was number 78 one week, it was number 62, then it would fall to 85. And they said, look, we're selling enough units of this thing that if we delete it so no one can buy it, hopefully if we re-release it after Christmas, this is around September, the orders will have built up enough if DJs still keep playing it, that we might be able to go into the top 40, because as you remember, if it's top 40, you go to Woolworths and WH Smiths and Menzies, where people could actually buy it. So we did that, and we sat down. It's January the 14th, 1991. I'll never forget. And in those days, you had to listen to the charts like everybody else to know where your record was. So you didn't warn you. So I think on midweek was like, I'd had one other record that was number 41, which is the worst place to be because you've sold a lot of records, but you're not going to be top of the pops. You're not going to be on Radio 1's playlist. So we were sat there, me and Sharon, and I had a flat in Hackney at the time, behind the Hackney Empire. And we were listening to top 40, got to about number 30. I thought, we fucked together. Probably number 42, 41. What a disappointment. Hey ho, on to the next one. And then we happened to have it on in the background. And Mark Goodyear, whoever said, number 14, highest new entry, Nomad.
I feel all excited.
Oh, we couldn't believe it. Again, we were only kids. And it was like, and from that moment, the phone never stopped ringing. From that moment, can you do Adam Tech next week? Can you do Top of the Pops? Can you do the chart show? Can you do Blue Peter? Can you do this? So from that moment on, you were just, probably 5 years we didn't stop because we had about 5 or 6 hits and they were staggered in different countries and territories. So you'd be promoting one single in one and another one somewhere else, then trying to get the recording time in. And it was very exciting. I got a lot of offers to do. I produced and wrote songs for a lot of people around that time, like Kim Wilde, Michelle Dale. Who else did we do? We did the remix of, we did RuPaul and Elton John, Don't Go Breaking My Heart, a charity single. We did so many things. I forget half of them now. LaToya Jackson, I wrote and produced for. That was a mad.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so it was a very interesting period of time. And that was, that takes us up to me being about 23.
I know. So now I just want to check. Anyone got any questions they quickly on us before we move on to the next stage of Damon's very busy life? Any questions or things you want to say? We can pop up on the screen. Oh, Julia, Princess Julia goes, you're like
Hi, Princess.
She loves all your songs.
That's great.
Anyone else?
We did another great song for Sharon. One of my favourite songs I ever did for Sharon was called Happiness. There's something going round inside my head. Do you remember that one? And she just sang the hell out of that one. Oh, you'd love that one.
Yeah.
Someone will remember it up there.
So, then, no more questions. Is there? Oh, Debbie, I love your story. It's like a proper dream tale.
Oh.
It is, though, because you just want to do these things and they all happened.
Yeah. It's a lot of dumb luck.
Now, I know a lot of people are very interested in how your career. I'm very interested.
Hi, Tony. £5,000 in new money is 5,000 euros, unfortunately.
Yeah. How you managed to get on? Oh, Daniel's going to come up at the end. Don't worry, he's going to repeat.
Daniel, you get a request.
So
he's a good-looking one.
Now, so how did you? What happened that you ended up writing Coronation Street?
Yeah. So then, around about. I then sort of made, I'd done very well. And then I thought, probably by the time I was like 35, I thought, I've done this enough now and it's great. I didn't really want to go on the road anymore. Sharon's career taken her on she joined, I can't remember now, but she got some really big jobs and she started to do a lot more acting. And so we kind of diverted a bit and I was a bit bored of it. I wanted to do something else. And my other obsession, apart from black music, I suppose, was sitcom. I loved sitcom. I thought it was such a genius art form, and I loved things like Cheers and The Golden Girls and Roseanne, all those sort of shows. And even growing up, things like I Love Lucy, and I was going back quite a way when I remember very little when that was on. But I read an awful lot about that, so I had sort of a weirdly encyclopedic knowledge about sitcom too, as well as soul music. So at one point, I think I bought a restaurant. My ex-boyfriend at the time, he wanted to get to a restaurant, so I bought a building down here on Northcote Road, and we turned that into a restaurant. That took up a good few years of my life, and it was great fun, called the Playroom.
You had a restaurant? Yeah,
on Northcote Road, but that was about 2 or 3 years. But at the same time, I really wanted to do more than anything else. I wanted to write sitcoms, so I went to there's a thing called the Arvin Foundation, named after Lord Arvin, a great art supporter. It's got 3 properties around the country, and you go, I think at the time cost about 250 quid. It was like a residential course, 5 days, open to absolutely everyone, no writing experience necessary. And it was each subsection, whether it was thriller writing or poetry or whatever, sitcom, you had some really good, it'd be Ruth Rendell. If it was detective fiction, it might be, with me, it was for the sitcom thing, it was Maurice Gran and Lawrence Marks, who became my next.
They came and talked and everything.
Say again?
They came and taught you.
They were there for the whole time, for the whole 5 days. So it was this incredible. It's still going on now. I always recommend for young writers, you should attend this thing. And it was a sitcom. And I went in and I was in a very down place. I think I'd split up with that boyfriend at the time. I'd sold the restaurant. Wasn't quite sure what to do next. Turned up there. And again, a bit like when I was 19 or 18 going into blues and soul and banging on about Stevie Wonder and every B-side of this. By the way, Marks and Gran wrote Birds of a Feather, Shine on Harvey Moon, The New Statesman, Goodnight Sweetheart. They were the biggest. They were like a hit factory of sitcom. And I said, after about 3 days of me yapping on away about every nuance of every sitcom, they asked to see me in the garden for morning coffee. And I thought, have I done something wrong? And they said, how many people are there that do what you do, produce records, dance records? I said, I don't know, a couple of hundred, I should think, So, there's about 7 people that can write funny in this country. We think you might be number 8. And I'm like,
thing.
And then they said, why don't you try and write just do a spec script to Birds of a Feather? You know the show. Write it to us, send it to us, and we'll take it from there. And we'll see if you can write. You talk a good fight. Let's see if you can actually do it. So I went home. I wrote a script, and I sent it to them. And they said, it's great. Now think about what you want to do. Have you got, I had some ideas about things, obviously sitcoms about the music business, the rest of it. And then a few days after that, I got another quite desperate call saying, one of the writers of the current Birds of a Feather we're shooting right now has pulled out, which doesn't happen very often. Can we use your script as episode 2 of the next series? And I'm like, yeah, sure, of course. And again, thought, well, that was easy. And Morris and Lawrence, who I still keep in touch with, sort of relate the story very often when they're doing talks. They're saying, look, it's never this easy, but this guy happened to be able to do it. And through some luck, happened to be in the right place at the right time. But you've got to put yourself in the right place at the right time, haven't you? There's no good just hoping someone's going to come and knock on your door. So within a few months of that, I was rehearsing with, or a few weeks of that, I was rehearsing with Leslie and Pauline and Linda in Duke York Barracks over in Knightsbridge, and we within I think another few weeks I was watching my first script being recorded down in Teddington with my mum and dad there and all my family, and so that was another really extraordinarily quick, which doesn't happen. I know now. I tell everybody it doesn't happen like that. But and from then I tried to get onto Corrie because I loved Corrie. I always had done, and I'd set about. I said
well, with the love of old women, old strong women, it was the perfect spot for you, wasn't it?
It is. Well, I'm a bit of an old woman myself, I suppose, and I went to. I think I wrote in the end. I sent 3 spec scripts to them, and eventually they kind of gave in. And then eventually they said, "Why don't you come and see us?" And I knew when they said that I'd got the job. So, and I was very proud to do. They gave me Blanche's funeral to write. They gave me Deirdre's.
Blanche's my favourite ever character.
Which is wonderful. They gave me Deirdre's favourite funeral to write. I just did the 10,000th episode in February, which is the biggest honour of all, to do an hour long, which is just a trip to Blackpool for all the women. I can always remember the first time I think that my producer thought that I was good is I gave Blanche, Ken had got I wrote an episode where Ken got uncharacteristically drunk because Deirdre's ex-husband Ray had turned up. And he got drunk in the pub, and I wanted to write Ken drunk. And they sort of said, well, Ken doesn't really get drunk. I said, well, let me do it just for once. It'll be fun. So he got drunk in the pub, came home, and there's Deirdre. And I think there was a book group going on at the time. And Blanche said to him, look at you coming in here, weaving in like a wine. He should be ashamed of himself. And he looked at her and he said, shouldn't you be knitting under a guillotine somewhere? And, and that line got repeated all over the press. And I think that's the moment that they thought, oh, okay, he can be... Jonathan Harvey joined a few months before me, and he was also extremely funny. Of course,
the pair of you are marvellous.
Well, you know Jonathan well, so I was a sort of this, the second fiddle gay writer in a way. But he and I have been on the show to this day for about 15 years. He joined about 3 months before me, so I've made some incredibly close friendships on Corrie. People
I love when I came up and you took me around the tour.
The set, yeah. So it's just a wonderful honour if you're a fan of something like that and you get to be part of it. Right to the 10,000th episode was a real kind of. I wanted to tell that little boy who's 14 back in Cardiff, you'll be doing something. You won't believe what I'm going to tell you. What you'll be doing in all those years' time. But you'll be writing the 10,000th anniversary episode.
How does it feel to you that you're running these people's lives? I know they're not real people, but to a lot of people in the country, they kind of are real people.
You
so
feel
sort of
you
so much.
Yeah, you feel a great responsibility because it's a heritage show, isn't it? It's something where we have to be very careful that you treat the character with a great deal of respect. You treat the street itself with a great deal of respect, but you also keep it interesting. It's a wonderful company, really. I mean, there's probably about 350 people working full time on that show, from cast to crew to writing team to everything else. And most of us, I say this on the team, a lot of us have been through. Most of us have been through the deaths of our parents or traumatic split-ups with partners, and we're all there for each other. I'm great friends with some of Ali King, who plays Carla's one of my real best friends, Mikey North, who plays. We've been on holiday together and everything else, and who plays Gary. Who's your favorite character?
I was going to ask exactly the same question.
Well, I love writing Blanche, particularly because she was a truth teller, so she could say absolutely anything. I remember a line that people really liked when I was when Blanche was alive. She do you remember when Danny Baldwin was in it, or Bradley Walsh and his son Rupert Hill? And there was some short story where the kid was shagging his stepmother or something ridiculous, and they were fighting on the street. And I had to write this scene, and I said, "Can I have Blanche?" They said, "Well, we don't need Blanche's scene." I said, "I've got a good idea." So they're fighting on the street. They're obviously from London, very rare London characters we had because they were related to Mike Baldwin. Yeah. And so while they're fighting on the street, Blanche comes out of the house, looks at them, rolls her eyes, and just says, "Southerners," and just walks off again. So you've got such a great palette when you've got all those characters. If I want someone to say something like this, or if I want someone to have this attitude, or you can always choose the right person because it's about 75 cast members that we've got, and you're always trying to develop characters so they're not exactly the same as the next character. There's no point having two characters that are the same. I like Sue Cleaver, who plays Eileen. I think she's a great. I love Sally, who plays Sally Webster, because I love that sort of. We sort of hyacinth-bouqueted her up really over latterly, and I pitched a story where she becomes a councillor and then goes for being mayor, and then it all goes wrong, of course. But that was really great to follow a long-term story where this working-class girl. A lot of people that I know who are the most snobby, as you know, are the ones that have had the roughest background. So this is something I could really identify with, coming from where I did.
Yeah, someone's. I got off reading the bath and nearly got my grazia wet.
That was
you don't have to write things you don't want to do. Oh, hang on, there's a note, Jimmy. How livid were you and Jonathan when somebody worked Dora Brighton into the screen?
Yeah, probably not that livid. We probably thought that's our territory, but there's no ownership on camp, is there? We're all allowed to have a bit of camp in our lives.
What did they ever make you write stories you don't really want to write?
Well, that's the job, isn't it? Because you've got to, I think with soap, you've got to. They're very good, actually. The producers have got the sense to very often give you scripts that play to your strengths. Some people are very good at procedural stuff. In a police interview room, some people are very good at
in camp and a quick one-liner.
Yeah, but I get a lot of funerals and weddings and birthdays and New Year's Eve.
All the special events.
Well, because I'm not just saying me. I get them. Jonathan gets it. A lot of writers are very good.
Party boy.
I just want to make it clear that we have a very talented writing team and everybody is equally good. It's very much a team. We write our own scripts, but we storyline and pitch stories together.
Yeah, so you have a big meeting every now and then where you all discuss what's going to happen in the future.
Yes, every month we all go to Manchester for 3 days, and we haven't been able to do that obviously for 4 months, and I doubt we'll be able to do it for another few months. That's when we all arrive. It's not just the writers, about 24 writers, and then you've got storyliners who are responsible for taking all those pictures and making sense of them, putting them into documents so that you get the right bit of the story in the right place. And then you've got script editors, you've got casting, you've got the producers, assistant producers. So you end up in a room of about 40 people, 45 people for 3 days. And at the end of it, the producer hopes that they come out with some really good material. Then that'll be compiled into a document. And then we receive our individual singles or doubles and we go off and write them. And then we're back up to Manchester a month later.
So what's happening at the moment? Are you working at home, sort of writing scripts, or is it all sort of gone
to be honest, Sue, like you, I mean, I've always written from home anyway. This doesn't seem to be much different, really, from being other than having Dan at home, which is a joy. Yeah. This is no real different. The only thing is, I mean, I looked at my diary yesterday. I nearly got snow blindness, from all the white. It was just like it's just nothing there.
But when someone pops round just to make it look busy.
But don't you think it's a joy somehow that I haven't got anything to do, any appointments? It feels very liberating and freeing. That we always say, "Yeah, I'll come to that." We always end up enjoying it, but there's something nice about the people we have seen. Obviously, is in very small groups of people, 2s and 3s and 4s, and I've re-understood something that Dan has said to me and my friend Andy said to me, that smaller groups of friends are always better because you get to really talk to them. How many times you've been in a room and thought, do you know what, I never even spoke to her and I haven't seen her for months. I never even spoke to him because there's just too many people to get around. Yeah, I think most people do. We've forgotten that maybe. You know, you think bigger is better. I had 250 of my closest friends to my 50th birthday party, but 250 people is a lot, you know.
I mean, you can't speak to anyone, could you? And then now, what I was going to say. So you're always going on holidays. I know from your you always seem to be going off somewhere lovely with people on holiday. How are you feeling about not going away?
Fine. I mean, look at the weather. If this happened in October or November, I think we'd all be feeling very different. I've got lovely friends like you asking me down to the seaside. We got lots of friends in Brighton, Hastings. I've got great friends, Sally and Steve Craddock down in Devon. So it's not like we're missing out on any. Well, we've got the sun here, haven't we? I'm not missing that because Dan and I probably were going away too much, and I suspect. I was starting to feel a bit guilty that we were going away so much in a way. Oh, Greta Thunberg was, giving me guilt. Yeah. So I think we might have started curtailing that a bit more anyway. But we love Spain. I'm learning Spanish. I've learned to speak Spanish while we've been locked down on my Duolingo, which is great. I've been promising to do it for years. So I don't know. Come October, we might all be singing a different song, mightn't we? Because the weather.
This make me appreciate everything I've got round me.
Oh, so I love it. I was saying to you before, I mean, I've seen people here, literally posh mums just sat on the side of the road with a Kronenberg and their kids running about. And I think, hallelujah, you know, we finally realised we don't need to spend 100 quid in a restaurant down the road. Although I am with those restaurants, I'll be the first ones helping and supporting my local restaurants when they do get back on their feet.
Do you remember that restaurant?
What's on July the 6th, Anna? You can come to Wales on July the 6th. Oh, I look forward to that. It's in my snow blindness diary.
Do you remember when we went to see that thing in the Clapham place? That was it, the Dance of the Black Death or something? What was it?
Oh, that was great. The Red Death, Mask of the Red Death. It was over in Battersea Arts Centre. It was the
drink we had at the end. Makes you go mad.
Yeah, it was absolutely fabulous.
Well, what was that drink we had that makes you go mad? Absinthe. Yeah, we had absinthe. Yeah. We went to an Indian restaurant. I've never been so off my face. We were all just like manic on this eating so much food, just like our lives depended on it. It was hilarious.
Yeah, that was a great night. Yeah, fantastic.
It was. Yeah, it was marvelous. Won't be able to have this.
Am I not going to get? Oh, hold on. What? Can I just go and get one thing? Hold on.
Yes, you can. So, any questions you want to ask ready for when Damon comes back from getting his one thing? I can save for him. What's he getting, Dan?
I was very disappointed that Sue wasn't going to be drawing me because she's been interviewing me, but I have got here.
Oh, picture for your wedding, your birthday.
You remember? Was that for my birthday or my wedding?
Oh,
happy 50th. That's my 50th.
Oh, I like the frames, very modern. Oh,
I like the picture.
That picture. I really liked it when I did it.
Yeah, really nice. So I've already got a Sue Tilley original.
Oh yeah, I'm going to try and draw all these sometime, but the sun keeps drawing me to the garden.
Oh, I don't blame you. It's just so glorious. I found a great job. Well, even as an adult, way before this, years ago, gardening and cooking are two things that give me such joy because they're so quiet. And you put in the effort at one end, and you get this great result the other end, don't you? It just takes patience. Your mind seems to go nice and empty. I'm not worrying about things. I'm not thinking about things. I do like that. Julia said, "What's
your favourite one-liner ever?"
One of my favourite one-liners ever. I remember I love 30 Rock. I've never seen 30 Rock with Alec Baldwin and Tina Fey. And there's a fantastic sequence all the way through the episode where he asks her, she's busy trying to sort out Tracy, the star they've got on Conan O'Brien's show. And he keeps calling her back to the office because he's her boss to ask her to write a speech for him. And he's constantly, it's not part of her job, and she's a funny, she's a writer, she's very funny, but he wants this, and she keeps giving him stuff, and then he keeps rejecting it. So anyway, finally, she runs in, and he's having this dinner jacket, it's this very important speech he's about to make, and he's got this dinner jacket on, he's got one person buffing his shoes, he's got another woman doing stitching in his lapels, And she said, "So, are you okay? Is the speech okay?" And he said, "Yeah, it's." She said he wanted topical. He said, "Yeah, maybe it's a bit too topical." And she said, "How too topical? How can you be too topical?" He says, "Well, the speech isn't until February." And she looks at him, and he's in this dinner jacket, and she said, "Well, what are you doing in a tuxedo?" And he says, "It's past 7:11. I'm not a farmer." And I just thought it was such a great, unexpected line that you presumed this was happening in an hour's time, and in fact, he obviously dressed like this every single night at 7 p.m. So things like that, you've got very often the best jokes.
What's your favourite one you've written?
I like that Blanche one about stayed home, got drunk, bit on a shoe. I think that's a really funny one liner. The other funny thing is you can write a line that performance sometimes can make a line that isn't very funny sound very funny indeed, and it isn't something that you deliberately you mean it to be funny, but the performance can add so much. Very often editing can add so much. The editor can cut so hard on something that contrasts with the first part of the next scene, and that can be cut really, really funny. And there's nothing in the writing. There's just a real kind of pace to it. You see that all the time in things like Friends and Will and Grace and stuff like that, where it's really sharp editing. So I'll tell you another line, which is a song lyric, because people often ask, "What's your favourite song lyric?" And one of the cleverest songs is from That's Entertainment. Maybe it's Cole Porter, I don't know. And it says, "Some great Shakespearean thing where a man kills his father and causes lots of bother." And to be able to rhyme father with father, where a man kills his father and causes lots of bother, I think is so genius and witty.
Expression, isn't it? Yeah, because I remember we had to meet up because you were going to write a sitcom about the job centre, weren't you? And I was going to be your advisor.
Yeah, it's a good. Someone asked me, we know each other. How did we meet then? Through Michelle, probably.
Jonathan.
Oh, Jonathan, yeah, and Lee.
Yeah.
I've just been working with Ann Mitchell, actually. You know Darling Ann Mitchell?
No, I don't know. No, but I know.
Do you not know Anne? Well, a lot of people will. She plays Cora on EastEnders, and she's in Call the Midwife. I've just recorded a show called Neighbourhood Watch, which is about 4 families. We recorded it all here in different rooms of the house to look differently, and it's basically about a Neighbourhood Watch app group, like what we're all doing now. We're all communicating like this instead of face to face. So this is a whole thing of. It's got Catherine Kelly from Corrie. It's got Jordan Stevens from Grizzle Kicks.
Oh, I'm a bit obsessed with Jordan Stevens.
He's a gorgeous lad. It's got Ricky Pepperdine in it. It's a really good, funny. Even though I say so myself, so I would love to be in politics. I think it would be a very thankless task right now. It's another one of my nerdy obsessions. I mean, I've got every political biography. I love UK politics. Unfortunately, now there isn't really much UK politics because of this health crisis, which I think has been politicised horribly by both the media, by the Conservatives, by the Labour government. The whole it's a health problem, and they need to stop making. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Such a meal of it.
Everyone just work together and not.
I mean, it's simple. Yeah, and I know. I mean, everyone's taking chunks out of the government. Don't blame it all. So am I. But
Damon, we've only got 2 more minutes to go.
Oh, have we? Dan, come and say hello.
Come and get Daniel up. And any last questions? And then we'll put some pictures up as well for you to see.
Oh, nice.
But they'll all be up later, the better ones. So let's come and meet Daniel.
Here comes my beautiful husband. Hi.
Lovely.
How you doing?
Look, aren't they a lovely couple?
Yes, I'm wearing trousers. I'm wearing shorts. That's our friend Honor who comes over here.
I can confirm he is. Yeah, for once.
Daniel, is it exhausting living with Damon?
It's always something new and exciting. I'll put it that way. Yeah. I mean, before I met him, I thought I was a social butterfly, and then wow, I was like, okay.
He thought he was the funny one.
I thought I was the funny one. Totally lost that.
He's the only wise now.
But I'm glad all your family love Damon and you all get on so well.
Oh, we do. We're very lucky.
I know. Oh, it's so romantic.
Yeah, we're very much in love. Yeah, very, very lucky.
I know. Oh,
any other questions from people?
We
were going to have a day off drinking today, and the first thing I want to do now is pour myself a glass of wine.
Who's
thank you, John. This is one of my oldest friends, John Riley, who I've known again since I was probably 18. But I was thinking time I knew Sharon. He was in a group called Torso that I've never seen anybody dance like John can. He still is one of the most amazing dancers. He's living over in Holland now. I miss you, John, and love you.
See, what I like about everyone I talk to, we get different things. What I've got from you is how positive you are and how amazing that you just try something and it all works out. It's just like, I hope that people get the message, don't be frightened to try something new. You never know what happens.
Choose something that you're good at and something that you know about, because I think that's the, when kids say, when we say you can be anything you want, what they largely mean is you can be famous, which is not the same thing as being successful or being happy. I think that I knew what I liked, and I stuck to those things. You know, because as my father used to say, or my mother used to say, you know, choose a career you love and you don't work a day in your life. So it doesn't feel like work when you love something and when you know how to do it well. You know.
You by any chance ever asked to be on Celebrity Mastermind?
No, I'm not a celebrity or a mastermind.
Yes, but you've got so many subjects. You could have a specialist subject to be bound to win.
Unless it's about cars, sport.
Choose the subject.
Yeah.
You can choose your special subject. Oh, I can't believe it's over. It's gone so quick. You're such a... Oh, where did you get... Debbie Darling used to be the chief registrar in Brighton, so she's very keen to know where you got married.
We got married in Ibiza. We were talking about this only yesterday. We took about 120 people over, I guess, and it was amazing. We went for 2 weeks and we got married on the Saturday in the middle, which was great. So we had a week to ourselves before and after. The most amazing villa I've ever seen. Glass walls. You press the button and the wall would move that way, this would move that way. A lot of people went straight into them, of course, late at night when we were partying. But everyone said, don't get married abroad. It's such a logistical night. But we got a really good wedding planners over there who did everything, really. So we just sat and watched the guests come up the rickety old lane in a bus. They didn't know where they were going. They didn't know who else was there. There was no cars allowed. You had to meet. We hired a little village square in the nearest tiny village, and everyone had to meet there. And then these buses would shuttle you up to the... Oh, it was just wonderful. We ought to do it all again, don't we, Dan?
Aww.
Maybe for our 50th.
Oh, so Katie, have you got any pictures that we can show? So Damon can see his beautiful pictures. But they'll be all on Facebook later tonight, don't worry. Oh, I can't... Who did that one? I don't know. So I'll try and guess who drew them. You look very there, Damon. Very youthful. Oh, that's good. There. That's lovely.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I like that one.
You're looking very youthful.
Oh, I look cute there.
Oh, that's a nice
one. Oh, that's nice too.
Looks like a Tintin or someone.
Yeah, well, my hair tends to do that.
Yeah. Who's that?
Oh, great. That's a really good likeness.
Oh, yeah. Wilkie did that. Oh, I like that. That's really good.
I look a bit more tough there. Oh, that's lovely.
I love the colours in the top. Oh, that's
great. You guys are very quick.
Oh, they're brilliant. Love that one. Oh,
I love them all.
That one. You look very
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing, though, that people are drawing the same thing and they're all so different?
Yeah, it's really nice. What a great idea.
It's thrilling. So I don't know who their guest is next week.
But, hi, Sharon. I love Sharon. She's another one of my favourites. It must be lovely for people to do it.
I know. So if there's an exhibition, I'll let you know and I'll show you.
Yeah.
So
hi, Katie.
I just want to say to people, we might start turning the class in the evenings to everyone as the weather's got better, so people want to be outside, and also people are going back to work. So if anyone's got any ideas on that, can they send me messages about what sort of time they might like it? We're thinking
we'll have a look at the pages later. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Damon. It's been wonderful.
Lots of love.
Hi to Daniel as well. Bye.
Right. Bye.